So yeah, so we'll just take the same example that we have taken earlier. Okay, so let's say my x value here that is there is nothing but the square feet of the house. Okay, now let's say if whether it is a 1200 square feet or 1400 square feet or 2000 square feet or so on. Okay, that's my x value, and y value corresponds to the cost of the house. Okay, cost of the house. So what we can do right now is like, let's say for this particular square feet, this is my cost, and for this particular square feet, this is my cost, and this is the square feet, this is the cost, and this is the square feet, this is the cost, and so on. Let's assume that this is how we got the data points. Okay, this is how we got the data points. Now given a particular data points like that, let us assume that initially this particular line is not there. Okay, this particular blue line is not there. Okay, or let me just give you a quick diagram here, so it gives you a better idea. Okay, so yeah, let's say I have some data like this. Okay, so let's say I have certain points like I have done earlier. Okay, I have some points like this. Okay, right? So let's say my x-axis is actually square feet and y-axis is actually cost of the house. So let's say we are doing it for the houses right now. Okay, so if this is the case, so I'm not pretty sure, like this is my trained data. Okay, this is my trained data. So if this is the label, then I'm saying that okay, that is for, let's say, 1200 square feet. Okay, this is my corresponding cost. Let's say it is around or let's say 18 lakhs. Okay, let's say 18 lakhs, right? So like that we are having certain data. So what is our objective right now is that our objective is to try to fit a line. Okay, try to fit a line such that, what is the idea here? If I fit a line like this through the data, okay, if I fit a line like this through the data, the advantage is that if I can extend this line further here, I can extend this line further. Okay, you can see that I can extend this line further. So for any new value that I get, for example, later on I get a new value for this particular square feet, I want to predict what is the approximate cost. So what I do, this is my new value. Okay, so what do? I'll draw a perpendicular line here. Okay, and I'll draw a perpendicular line here, and I'll say that okay, this is the cost. Let's say it is around like 1.2 crores. Okay, so am I clear? So we have certain data, we have certain training data that we have. So if I can fit a line, which is nothing but like nothing but a regression. Okay, if I can fit a line, so this is nothing but y is equals to your mx plus c equation itself, the basic equation. Okay, if I get a new value, I can extend and then I can take the corresponding y value. Okay, so that's how I make a prediction using the regression. So like I said, because this is a regression, we are predicting the continuous value. So that's why I've given you something like 1.2 crores or 1.25 crores and so on. Okay, so this is the idea. Okay, but one thing that you have to understand here is that, okay, this is the line that we have plotted. Okay, now see, for suppose for this particular x, which is 1400 square feet, let's say. Okay, if you carefully observe here, this is the actual cost. Okay, this is the actual cost, but what is the predicted cost? It is actually nothing but the corresponding y here. Okay, let's say, which is around like, let's say 25 lakhs. Okay, which is around like 25 lakhs. But if you carefully observe, it is not 25 lakhs, it is also somewhere around close to 18 lakhs. Am I clear? Right? So what is the difference between this particular point that we have predicted, okay, and the actual cost that we have here? Okay, so that particular thing is nothing but your deviation, or you call it as error. Okay, so this particular red deviation that we have here, okay, that is called as the error. Okay, because it is nothing but the difference between the predicted cost and the actual cost. Okay, so please understand again, the deviation that we have can be sometimes negative. Okay, or if you consider a deviation somewhere here, okay, this is the actual cost and this is the predicted cost here. Okay, now you can see that this might be a positive error. Okay, that might be a positive error. Like that, when you fit a particular regression line, it is possible that, okay, your predictions and your um, actual values might have a slight deviation, okay, in the predicted cost and the actual cost. Okay, so let's quickly take another example. Okay, so let's say the same data. Okay, I have the same data, let's say like that. I have some data like this. Okay, I have some data like this and I have some data like this and so on. Okay, now same example. Okay, same example, but now let's say this time when I am trying to plot the line, okay, instead of plotting the line through the data, let's say the line has a deviation little more like this. Okay, that a deviation little more, or it has deviated below like this. Okay, so in either of these cases, what will happen is that, okay, the error that is there, okay, the error that you have between the predicted ones and the actual ones, okay, predicted ones and the actual ones, predicted ones and the actual ones, predicted ones and the actual ones. Or you can take the other line. So this is my actual and this is my predicted. This is my actual and this is my predicted. This is my actual and this is my predicted. Like that, if you take the differences between the predicted and the actual cost, okay, the difference is actually huge. Okay, the error that we get now is actually huge. Okay, so why did this happen? Why did this happen? So basically what you have to understand here is that, okay, your line equation is nothing but mx plus c, right? So hope all of you know what is mean by m. The m is nothing but the slope of the line, and what is c? C is nothing but the y-intercept. Okay, so let's say in this particular diagram that I have drawn, your c is actually 0 because it is exactly going through the axis. Okay, so let's say c is equals to 0. Now who will decide which line I have to take? Okay, whether I have to take this line or whether I have to take this line. Who will decide which line I have to take? So that will be decided by the m, okay, the slope of that particular line. So are you I think you are able to correlate, right? So now my m is the parameter which is going to decide, okay, which is the best line for this particular data, right? So what I'll do now, if I want to make my model good and accurate, so what I'll do, let's say though I have drawn initial line like this, what I'll do next time, I understood that the error for this particular line was high. So what I'll do, I'll try to reduce it a little. Okay, and then calculate and see what is the error. Okay, then again you try to take another line. Okay, you try to take another line like this. Okay, and see what will be the error. Again you take another line and see what will be the error. Again you take another line and see what will be the error. Like that, for different m values, for different slopes, you are trying to fit a line through the data and see which particular line is actually giving you the minimum error. So how do you get the minimum error? Minimum error is nothing but the summation of all these errors. Okay, summation of all these errors. So you have seen here already, let's say this is my y predicted. Okay, so let's say I call it as y cap. Okay, and this particular thing that we have here is nothing but my y, which is nothing but the actual value. Okay, so your y minus y cap, okay, will give you the deviation, will give you the error. So like that, for each and every point, we have this y minus y cap, we have the error, okay? So do the summation of all these errors, you will get the final error, okay? So what is our objective now in this particular scenario is that, see for which particular slope, for which particular m value, okay, we get the minimum error. Okay, we get the minimum error. So if I consider this line, no, the error is high. So if I consider this line, yes, the error has got reduced a little more. If I consider this line, maybe this is my best line. Okay, maybe this is my best line. And if I consider this line, again the error is actually increasing. If I consider this one, again the error is increasing, and so on. Right? So this is the fundamental idea behind any linear regression algorithm. Okay. Now, yesterday somebody has asked me a question saying, okay, is it always necessary that I need to always consider a line? No, it is not necessary. The reason I'll tell you again. Okay. Let's say I have data like this. Okay. I have data like this. Okay. Let's say I have data like this. Okay. Let's say here, if I fit a line, it might go like this. Okay. It might go like this and the error is still high. What if I'm fitting a curve here? Instead of that, if I'm fitting a curve like this, okay, that curve might give me a better error. Better error in the sense like minimum error. Okay. So please understand, it is not always necessary that my linear regression equation will be always in the form of y is equals to mx plus c. This is just a line equation. Okay. If there is linearity in data, okay, if there is linearity in data, please note this point because it's a very important topic. Okay. If there is linearity in data, how do you find whether there is linearity in data? So go back to your session yesterday that I have told you. Okay. Whenever you want to look at a particular feature, quickly put a scatter plot. Okay. You have to quickly put a scatter plot. And the moment you put a scatter plot, your scatter plot appears something like this, what I'm showing right now. Okay. So looking at the data, you will understand whether there is linearity or not. Right. So what do you mean by linearity? Linearity is nothing but when x is growing, y also should grow. Okay. In a linear fashion. Okay. But in this case, what happened? In this case, what happened is that, okay, x is growing. Let's say the y is also growing, but maybe at a quadratic way. Okay. Let's say this is a quadratic equation, right? Y is equals to x square, right? So it's going in a quadratic way. So looking at the data, you will understand whether this particular linearity relation is there in the data or not. Whether when one variable is growing, whether the other one is also growing or not. Okay. So in both the cases, y is equals to mx plus c and y is equals to x square. Let's say x square. In both the cases, there is linearity because when one is growing, the other is also growing. Okay. But the only thing is here it is growing linearly, it is growing quadratically here. Okay. So when you have such kind of a relation, only then you can apply linear regression. Okay. If there is no linearity displayed by the data, then you cannot apply linear regression because the reason is your data points will be highly scattered, like I have shown you yesterday. Okay. Your data points will be highly scattered in different places. So you cannot apply linear regression there. It is not possible. Hope I'm making myself very clear. Okay. So to just clear the air here, it is not necessary that I have to use y is equals to mx plus c equation always in my linear regression. It is not necessary. Okay. My equation can be anything like y is equals to, like x square plus 2x plus so on and so on. It can be a quadratic equation. It can be a cubic equation or anything. Okay. It can be basically a polynomial. Okay. It can be basically a polynomial equation, right? So with that understanding, we'll just quickly go back and see what is this linear regression in some more depth. Okay. So what I have shown you, what I have explained you till now is like almost all I have explained everything. So just have a look at this particular diagram to get more understanding. Okay. So in this particular case, generally in machine learning, what do we do is like, we will write the equation as like this, W0 plus W1x. But please do not get confused, okay? It is same as y is equals to mx plus c. But the only thing you see is nothing but the W0 and m is nothing but the W1, okay? So in this case, because the line is not passing through the origin, okay? That means you have some kind of a y-intercept. So W0 will be available in this particular case, okay? So yeah, so like I said, so this is your linear and non-linear relationships and so on, okay? So you can apply linear regression only when you have some kind of a linear relationship, okay? See, this is a non-linear relationship. That is why in order to fit a line or a curve here, you write a quadratic equation or something, okay? So what is this mean squared error? So like I said in the previous diagram, if you see, what is the error here? See, this is my actual value and this is my predicted value. So the difference between them, y minus y cap or y cap minus y, whatever it is, okay, that will become my error. So if I take the summation of all those errors and square it and divide it by the total number of samples, that will become my mean squared error, okay? So don't get confused with this particular formula. See, it is nothing but 1 by n. N is nothing but the number of samples that we have. That means the number of data points. And fi minus yi is nothing but the predicted cost minus the actual cost, okay? And squaring them and summing them up. So that is called as a mean squared error. So in linear regression, our objective is to somehow reduce this mean squared error. That is our objective. So in machine learning, we call that mean squared error as nothing but a cost function, okay? We call it as a cost function. Why are we calling it as a cost function? Is that because our total objective in the linear regression is that we have to minimize that cost. Here cost is nothing but the error, okay? So we have to minimize the error somehow. So h theta of xi, this is just another representation that I have taken from the Andrew Ng's course. So because I find it like very interesting and a standard way of representing the formulas. So h theta of x is nothing but the actual the predicted value, and yi is nothing but the actual value, okay? So if you want to just quickly understand why are we writing like that, is that in general, this is how we write, okay? So regression will be written like this, okay? So h theta of x is equals to theta 0 plus theta 1 x, okay? So this is nothing but your y is equals to mx plus c equation itself, but this is just another representation, that's all, okay? Why are we representing it as h theta of x? Like I said, so when you're trying to put a regression, or when you're trying to put a straight line or a curve, okay, you basically call that as a hypothesis, okay? See, a hypothesis is something that can be proved or disapproved, right? It can be something like which can happen, which may not happen, okay? So here also, when we are trying to figure out a hypothesis in the sense we are trying to fit a line. That line may be a perfect fit through the data, or it may not be a perfect fit through the data. So we are just trying it out, right? So that's the reason we call it as a hypothesis. And the hypothesis is nothing but theta 0 plus theta 1 x. So no need to worry about this particular equation. See, this is nothing but the y-intercept. Okay, this is nothing but your y-intercept, which is nothing but your c, and this theta 1 is nothing but your slope. Okay, that's all is the difference and nothing else. Now, when it is not a straight line, but instead of a straight line, maybe you're trying to solve a non-linear relationship data. That means you're trying to fit a curve through the data. Okay, then in that case, what will happen is like this h theta of x, whatever the hypothesis that we have taken, will become much more complex. Complex in the sense, let's say it is becoming like this. Okay, theta 1 x square, let's say theta 2 x cube plus theta 3 x power 4 and so on. Now it is becoming a polynomial. Okay, now it is becoming a polynomial. So this is a simple linear regression. And this is a little more complex. Okay, this is a little more complex because we are not trying to fit a line, rather we are trying to fit a curve through the data. Okay, so I hope this cost function is now very clear. Okay, now what I have done here is like I've shown you another graph. Okay, this graph is actually nothing but the graph where we have plotted the error. Okay, where we have plotted the error. So one important point, how did we get this graph? Okay, how did we get this graph? That's what I'm going to show you right now. Okay, so I told you, I told you just now, like I have a graph like this. Okay, I have a data like this. Okay, now let's say I have data something like this. Okay, let's say I have a perfect linear data. Let's just imagine. Okay, let's just imagine I have a perfect data. Now, what is my objective? My objective is to fit a line exactly through the data. Okay, so this is this green line. Okay, that's exactly passing through the data. Now, let's say instead of coming to this particular conclusion, I have tried out with the different slope values. So this is one line, this is another line, this is another line, this is another line, and so on. And green line is the perfect fit for the data. And beyond that also, I might have some lines like this. Okay. Right. So now for this particular line L1, okay, if you try to calculate the error, I'm pretty sure the error will be actually maximum, right? So what we are trying to do here is that we just try to just plot the error graph. Okay, we'll just try to plot the error graph here. Okay, so yes, so for this particular L1, the error will be maximum. Okay, error will be maximum. So next, what I'll do is like I'll go for the L2. I'll go for the L2. Now the error has reduced a bit. Okay, the error has reduced a bit. So what will happen? My error will come a little more down. Okay. Similarly for L3, my error comes a little more down. L4, my error comes a little more down. Okay. For this particular green line, let's assume that the green line is exactly passing through the data. So my error will be almost equal to 0, right? Almost equal to 0. Now, again for this line L5, L6 and L7, slowly the error rate increases. Okay, slowly the error rate increases. So if you carefully observe, if I draw a line here now, okay, this will be like this curve. It's an inverted bell curve. Okay, now you can ask me like what is the x value here? X value is nothing but your slope, the theta 1. Okay, the x value is nothing but the theta 1. What will be the y value here? Y value is nothing but your h theta of x. Okay, h theta of x, which is nothing but your error. Okay, the error. I'm sorry, not h theta of x. It's j of theta. Sorry, it's j of theta in our representation. Okay, so in the previous representation I have just shown you j of theta is nothing but your error. Okay, so this y-axis is nothing but your j of theta. X-axis is nothing but your multiple theta values. Okay, so you can clearly see here that when you're plotting different lines through the data, okay, if you are starting from here and going down till the data like this, okay, at one particular line you will get a very minimal error, and as you keep going down further, again your error starts increasing. So that is the reason this graph will come as an inverted bell. Okay, it will come as an inverted bell. So one takeaway point from this particular slide is that it's a very important question in the interviews. Okay, the error function in linear regression follows normal distribution. Okay, the error function, that is nothing but j of theta, in linear regression follows normal distribution. So you can see that it is basically an inverted bell curve. Okay, and this particular error, if you see here, there will be a point where like this. Okay, there will be a point where the error is either completely minimum or it might be close to 0. Okay, it might be close to 0. So you call this particular point as global minimum. Okay, you call this particular point as global minimum. Okay, so with that understanding, let's just quickly look at this particular graph. So this is what I have explained here. So here it is nothing but the j of theta, which is the error function, and these are my different slope values. So when I keep plotting the error, so you can see that the error is initially high, comes down a bit, goes down a little more, so on and so on. At some point, when the line is exactly passing through the data, your error might be closer to 0 or even 0. Okay. And again, if you deviate further, it keeps increasing. Okay. So it's basically an inverted bell curve. So that's the reason we are saying that error function in linear regression will always follow a normal distribution. Okay. Now this is the overall picture that we have discussed till now. Okay. So what is the hypothesis? Hypothesis is trying to fit a line through the data. Okay. So theta 0 plus theta 1x. Then what are the parameters that we are trying to change here? Both your theta 0 and theta 1, right? Because your y-intercept and theta 1, both of them will decide like how the line should look like when you're trying to fit through the data. Okay. And what is the cost function? Cost function is nothing but your mean squared error. Okay. So we are trying to take a difference between the predicted value, actual value, square it and divide it by the number of samples. So please understand, okay, dividing it by 1 by n and 1 by 2m both are same. Okay. That's basically, again, probability and estimation. So I don't want to touch upon that. But in order to take the average, you can do a 1 by 2m, where m is nothing but the number of samples. Okay. So what is our goal? Our goal is to minimize this j of theta 0 comma theta 1. Okay. What do you mean by that? That means our goal is to minimize the mean squared error. That is what is our complete idea. Okay. So till now, what we were doing is that we are trying to change the theta values. I mean the slope values. Okay. What we have done is we are trying to change the slope values. And see, so in our example also here that I have shown you, okay, initially our location was somewhere here. Initially, this is the line that we have chosen. And we tried to change the slope, and this is the line that we got. And we tried to change the slope, and that we got. And then again, we tried to change the slope, and this is the line we got, and so on, right? So what we are trying to do here is that we are trying to continuously change the slope value and see which line is actually giving me a best mean squared error. Okay. So gradient descent is one of the algorithms, okay, which will automatically update the theta values and see for which particular theta setting. That means for which particular theta naught and theta 1, you will get the minimum error for that particular data. So that is given by the gradient descent algorithm. Okay. So what will see the formula looks like very, very confusing, but believe me, it is like very, very simple. Okay. So what are these two rules? These two rules are nothing but updating the theta 0 and theta 1. Okay. So initially we'll pick up a theta 0 and theta 1. Okay. Calculate the mean squared error. Now when you see the mean squared error was high, what do? You basically update the theta values. Okay. You basically update the theta values. So how that update is being done is what is given here. Okay. Is what is given here. So theta 0 minus alpha. Alpha is nothing but the step size. Okay. What is this exact step size? I'll just explain you in a minute. Okay. So alpha is nothing but the step size, and this is derivative of that particular cost function with respect to theta 0 and derivative of that same cost function with respect to theta 1. So this is what we are doing whenever we are trying to update. So how this derivation is working is what I have given here. Okay. It's basically nothing but doing a partial derivative one time with respect to the theta 0 and second time with respect to the theta 1. Why are we doing this derivation is again pretty simple. So please understand the same diagram that we have taken earlier. So I'm going to draw this particular diagram again separately so that we'll get a good idea of like why are we doing this particular derivative. Okay. So like I have said, this is what we are trying to do, right? This is what is our error function is going to look like. Okay. So if I draw a line through them, it will be something like this, right? So let's say initially my theta setting was here, theta 0 and theta 1 was here, somewhere around here I have taken, and this is the error function, error I got. So next time what do? I'll update the theta 0 and theta 1. My gradient descent algorithm will do that. So once it does that, what will happen? We will jump from here to a next place where my error is a little better. Okay. Then once we calculate again we are updating theta 0 and theta 1 using a gradient descent algorithm. So again it will stop. Okay. And so on. Like that it keeps going like this further and further and further. Okay. And finally what will happen when it comes to this particular location, it understands that the error is actually 0. Okay. Now, one careful observation that you have to do in this diagram is that my initial step that I have taken from here to here is large, and the next step that I take from here to here is a little more smaller, and it keeps becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. So the step size keeps becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. Okay, the step size keeps becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. Why is this happening? Because if you observe the formula, what we are trying to do here is nothing but we are trying to take a partial derivative every time with respect to theta 0 and theta 1. So what do you mean by a derivative? Derivative in another terms is what we can call it as a tangent drawn at this particular location, right? And again, tangent drawn at this particular location, tangent drawn at this location, tangent drawn at this location, tangent drawn here, and so on and so on and so on. So ultimately, when you come to this particular location at the bottom, your tangent will become a horizontal line. Okay, your tangent will become a horizontal line. So your derivative that you are taking, your partial derivative that you are taking itself will ensure that whenever you are having a high error, it tries to move towards the lower error. Okay, it tries to move towards the lower error, and it will stop when your error is minimum. Okay, when your error is minimum. So that is the importance of partial derivatives in the linear regression, and I mean in the gradient descent algorithm. Okay, so hope you got an idea of like how this particular derivation is actually working. Now, what is this alpha? This alpha is nothing but the step size that I have been mentioning. Okay, the alpha values will be generally ranging between 0.00012 to 0.1. Okay, that is the alpha range generally. Okay, it is between 0.0001, I mean 0001 to 0.1. So you will set the alpha to a particular value. Now, why this alpha is required is that it will decide what is the step size. Okay, what is the step size, whether it has to jump directly from this point to this point, or whether it has to jump from here to here. Okay, so whether it has to jump from directly to here, or whether it has to take a smaller step. That is what the alpha does. Okay, the alpha will decide how much is the step size during the gradient descent algorithm. Okay, now the alpha value should be smaller. The alpha value should be smaller. You cannot take alpha a large value. Okay, you cannot take alpha large value. It is not correct. I'll tell you why. The reason is that if you take alpha larger value, you may take a very big step from here to here. So you come here, again a very big step from here to here, and here to here, here to here, and again you may come back from here to here, here to here, and so on. So what is this? This problem is nothing but overshooting. Okay, you call this as overshooting. That means instead of coming to the global minimum here, okay, it is overshooting. That means over jumping from one place to another place, but it may not come and reach this particular global minimum. Okay, so that is the problem if you take alpha to be very large values. That is the reason generally the alpha values will be between 0.0001 to 0.1. Okay, so this will ensure that the step sizes that we take in this particular diagram are small, and will make sure that it is actually reaching the global minimum. Okay, so that's what exactly I have explained here. Okay, so this is my initial weight that I have taken. So like I said, why are we doing this partial derivative? The partial derivative is nothing but your tangent. Okay, so as you take a particular alpha value, you keep derivating it continuously. What will happen is like the tangent is going to become a horizontal line at this particular point. That's how the step sizes are also reducing, and when it comes to this particular place, it will become the global minimum. Okay, so I have also given the example of like what will happen in case if your alpha is nothing but the step size, or you can also call it as a learning rate. Okay, learning rate, if it is too large, there is a possibility that it will overshoot like this. Okay, now why generally people tend to keep alpha to be a larger value is that because if the alpha is larger value, it takes less number of iterations for the machine learning model to come and reach the global minimum. Okay, so with that idea, generally people will keep it at a larger value, thinking that the algorithm will converge very quickly. Okay, so you can see we have written a convergence step here. What is this convergence step? For different theta values, we are trying to see which theta value is giving me the best output. Okay, so I want to find that particular theta 0 and theta 1 pair very quickly. So in order to do that, I'm putting a larger alpha value, but doing that case might lead to a overshooting scenario where the algorithm will quickly jump, but it may not reach the global minimum. So that is the problem. Okay, so for that reason, it is always necessary for you to keep the alpha value very minimal, less than 0.1. Okay, so I have just given you a simple example of global minimum and local minimum. So if the curve is something like this, okay, so when the algorithm is seeing like this, and it might assume that this is the actual minimum, or when the algorithm is here and this is the starting point, when it is converging, it may treat this as a local minimum. Okay, it may think that this is the actual minimum, but frankly speaking, this is the local minimum. The algorithm might have a global minimum. See, but this problem will happen only when the curve is like this. But in our case, you can clearly see that the curve is always an inverted bell shape. Okay, it's always an inverted bell shape. So there is no doubt that we will always have a global minimum, but we will never have a local minimum. So one takeaway point is that linear regression doesn't have a local minimum. It always has a global minimum. Okay, so with that understanding, we'll stop the session right here and we'll quickly join for the multivariate linear regression.